On this video, we talk about true love, real love, and authentic love. And also, why is it that many of us cannot talk about ordinary love? Stay tuned. Welcome to the new Love Addiction. I'm Alan Robarge, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Let's explore love. Let's explore what is love, and very specifically, the categories that seem to be popular with regards to true love, real love, authentic love. We then also take the opposite and we look at fake love, inauthentic love, dishonest love. And ultimately, I want to tap into ordinary love, something that many people don't like and don't talk about. Our culture is immature when it comes to love. And when people talk about love, they are confusing themselves because they oftentimes are trying to use the language of love and discerning intention and truth around behaviors of loving, and trying to translate that language into relationship or translate it into assessing the health of a relationship. So if we're looking at quality relating and healthy relating, we want to be able to track vulnerability. We want to be able to track emotional responsiveness, the ability to give and receive emotion, presence, attention. The word that is also used is attunement. The experience, the feeling of attunement is harmony. If you feel that there is a harmonious connection with your partner, the person that you love, and we are looking at the quality of those interactions that are based on vulnerability. And when we are vulnerable, when we are curious about the other person and we reveal our vulnerability, that makes us emotionally open and makes us emotionally available. So we are exchanging. It is the word exchange. There means this back and forth, this give and take. And when we notice it in our partner, and then when we notice it in ourselves, perhaps we initiate and then our partner follows through and responds, or perhaps the partner initiates and then we follow and we respond back with some equal emotional attention or presence. When this is happening, we are mirroring. And sometimes mirroring is literally mirroring back the person's behaviors. So if a person is really smiling at you, and one way to mirror back is that you smile back at them. Or if a person initiates and reaches out to grab your hand, to give you a hug, to pat you on the shoulder, to pat you on the back, to respond by allowing the completion of that so that you let the person hug you, but then you also mirror the same behavior by initiating and giving them a hug as well, or squeezing their hand back when they've reached to hold your hand. So it's this vulnerability, this emotional presence, this mirroring that creates the feeling of harmony and creates the feeling of emotional attunement. Now, when this happens, and we do this enough, and we experience strong feelings of consistent affection and strong feelings of warmth and caring and trust and safety, we begin to encapsulate all of those feelings, and we call it love. Now, there's this belief that love is true or authentic or real, and that if it's not, then it is somehow, there has been a confusion of making a choice of the partner, and that people often fixate on, well, is it true love? Is this true love? Is this my true love? Let's introduce another idea here that seems to be popular, in this idea of a soulmate, that there is this certainly a certain important person that is somehow destined from the heavens, mirroring, acknowledge, able to show up and be the reflection of the depth of your own loving. And that you are somehow blessed, or you're divinely blessed, that there's some great purpose in being with the partner that you're with. Some people have a bit more rational idea of a soulmate, and they would think that it simply means sharing your spirituality with your partner. And it might not have that same heightened seal of approval. Many people, in addition to thinking it's about sharing your spirituality with your partner, it's this idea that there's a predestined heart match. Someone matches your heart, is perfectly chosen for you, and that you have the seal of approval, you have the blessing of the great heavens, and that you now are to make this particular relationship work, and that it is destined. It has a life beyond the ordinary. It now is a bit spiritualized. It has direction that is intended to culminate in great meaning. This belief, the idea of whether or not love is true, real, authentic, the idea whether or not your partner is the chosen one, the chosen soulmate. These are highly problematic ideas if you have an attachment injury, if your attachment style, if you have an insecure attachment style that shows up as preoccupied, anxious, approaching relationships from a place of being preoccupied and anxious, or an insecure attachment style where you show up in relationships feeling avoidant or ambivalent, where you need to constantly monitor creating space and distancing. When you introduce this idea of true, real, authentic love, it then also means that you're going to be suspect and monitoring when love falls short, and when love is inauthentic, and love is disingenuous, and love is fake. You are setting yourself up for some rather wild dog chasing its own tail, going down the rabbit hole, trying to prove whether or not this is or isn't real. This fantasy notion of a soulmate, and I'll put an asterisk there because I'll explain why I'm referring to it as a fantasy notion. When we are misguided in our thinking and we want to very wholeheartedly believe in this idea of a soulmate, it obscures reality. And the reason why I said asterisk and why we need to talk about this is that perhaps spiritually, soulmates exist. And perhaps in your own personal spiritual orientation and whatever you believe is possible and your spiritual practice, a soulmate might very much be a foundational piece in your understanding of how you orient to the world and how you orient to relationships. And if that is true, then by all means believe it, and it's a perfectly reasonable idea when you're trying to define what you believe and based upon a spiritual practice or spiritual beliefs. However, when we take it out of the context of being rooted in a spiritual practice, and instead, let's just look at the logic of the idea of a soulmate and the idea of true, authentic, real love. It is a very dangerous idea, and I'll explain why it's dangerous. If you grew up in a home where there is dysfunction, the outcome of living in a dysfunctional home means that usually a byproduct of unhealthy relating is that you must distort reality. And we do this for two reasons. We distort reality to cope and to survive. We can't let in the truth of how dysfunctional and unhealthy and how disappointing and how sad and how let down you might feel in your relationships in your family. So we naturally employ this function, this ability to distort reality in order to survive. The other reason why it happens, or the function of distorting reality exists, is quite frankly, that's all we know. So dysfunctional relating will show up in our life as our norm. To us, that is normal. So unhealthy relating, dysfunctional relating, disappointing emotional connections, missed opportunities for emotional connection, feeling ignored, feeling betrayed, feeling abandoned, being abused, some kind of neglect that's going on, that's impacting you emotionally, that's impacting your development as a child in the family. That's perfectly normal because that's all you know. That's what you're living with. So you have been trained. Your brain has managed to normalize dysfunctional relating, one, to survive, and then number two, because you have no reference point. And perhaps you were introduced to other families. You had a friend, you had a number of friends where you would go to those families. Or you had aunts and uncles, other outside of your immediate family, and you were able to see how other people are relating, and if perhaps they related in a slight different way, if they had different skill set of healthier relating, it could really wake you up, and you could really draw this comparison of, wow, that is so weird. These people are actually talking to each other. These people are actually enjoying being with each other. Well, that really changes, in comparison to what I'm used to, that's pretty eye-opening. So we set the stage. We say there's a high possibility, a chance, it's assumed that if you come from a dysfunctional, unhealthy family where relationships are strained for whatever reasons, that one coping skill and one skill that you learn to operate within that system is reality distortion. You distort the intensity of what's happening. That would mean that you could distort reality by diminishing the intensity of the stress and the confusion that's occurring. Another way reality distortion might occur is that you actually don't have very close connections with family members, but you can convince yourself that you do, and that in order to function and survive as an 8-year-old, as a 9-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as a 15-year-old, whatever age it is, we can't really let in the truth that I'm not really close to my family. I'm not close to my mother. I'm not close to my father. My brother is not available to me. My sister completely ignores me. And it's very hurtful to stay stuck in that awareness. So we employ, this is usually unconscious, we're not, trying to trick ourselves, but the brain has this lovely built-in defense mechanism that helps us override that reality and substitute a softer, more accommodating reality, which says, oh, we get along fine. We're not the best family, but yes, I love my family and they love me. Of course they love me. And of course we're close. Sure, we fight. Sure, we have some problems here and there. But, we're a good family and we're really close to each other. Well, that's reality distortion. That's not happening. So we have been trained, we grew up in an environment where that environment trained our brain to very easily get sucked into distorting reality. So this means we are prone to fantasy, and that it might actually be much easier for us to be in relationship to fantasy, or be into relationship with the fantasy of the person that we're with, or the fantasy of how we are relating, than to be able to discern the actual information, discern the content of what is happening in the moment-to-moment exchange. And if we come from a history where we override reality in order to soften the disappointments that are actually occurring, if we do not have the skill and the ability to monitor and track this and keep this in check, we are going to fuel it. We are going to use it as an adult unconsciously to continually dupe ourselves, to continually set ourselves up to misread a situation and believe that it is more than it actually is. Or when we get red flags, when we feel disappointed, when we get information that this relationship is not working, or our partner's behavior is actually hurtful and is not coming from a place of kindness, we can override that information. We rationalize, we justify, we even sometimes just outright forget. We just put it out of our mind. So I hope you can see how I've set this up, that if you have an attachment injury and come from a home where there is unhealthy, dysfunctional relating, chances are you have this wonderful skill to distort reality. And when you do this, you're inviting confusion and chaos into your life. And when you bring this skill, and yes, I'm using this, a bit tongue-in-cheek, the word skill tongue-in-cheek, and or saying it sarcastically, that this skill is actually very hurtful. And it gets in the way of mature, adult, healthy relating. It gets in the way of what I shared at the beginning of this video, of we want to really monitor vulnerable, curiosity, vulnerability, staying curious about vulnerability, staying curious about emotional openness, being able to track the give and receive, the give and take, the back and forth exchange of emotional warmth, of emotional connection. And again, that feeling is one of harmony. That's what's meant in this word emotional attunement. So if we have this skill of reality distortion, we're going to get confused about tracking vulnerability, emotional openness in relationship, and we're also going to misread what is actually taking place. Now, usually, we're not so much tuned into misreading when it's actually authentic. We might need to wake up a bit and to very consciously identify, well, this is healthy, this is good, this does feel like positive relating. But in general, the healing mind, the maturing mind is going to fall into place and be able to identify that this actually does feel, has a congruently honest exchange that is affirming the goodness of the interaction. So most of us don't have to worry about reality distortion when the relating is going well and positive. We would employ reality distortion more when the relating is unhealthy and dysfunctional, and we can't let in that reality. We're unwilling to look truthfully that the person that we're with does not have the skill for emotional presence, is not creating situations that invite being curious, is not inviting being known, being seen, being known, being heard, being understood. That person is guarded, that person is shut down, that person is withdrawn, that person is withholding. And instead of us taking that information in at face value, we use reality distortion to confuse ourselves, to override that information that we are receiving, and we move forward going through the motions of relating anyway, and some of us it just doesn't register that this is not enjoyable, this is not what I've signed up for. So let's return to this idea of true love, authentic love, and real love, and also sprinkle in some romantic fantasy around being with this very special person where it is blessed by the heavens, that there is some kind of divine truth, that you are to be with your soulmate. All of this language, this way of thinking, is not helpful to a person who has a history of reality distortion. I am not here to argue if soulmates do exist or don't exist. I don't really care. I am not here to argue if love is true or not true, authentic, inauthentic, fake, etc. I really don't care. I am presenting to you that the language itself is flawed, and for a person who has an attachment injury, who suffers from attachment trauma, who has a history of being in dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships, it is not helpful to you to believe in the cultural romantic idea of finding this very important person who's a soulmate. And oftentimes what soulmate means is savior. It's very Cinderella. You know, the idea of soulmate is that metaphorically or symbolically in the Cinderella story, it's this idea that she has this glass slipper and he finds the glass slipper, and then when he puts it on her foot, it fits perfectly, and it proves that that everybody knows who they are, and that when they met at the ball, now it all makes sense, and the true identity comes forth. And because it's culminated in this realization that they are meant to be. Oh, be careful with this way of thinking. Please be careful. I have met many people who have been in relationships for 5 years that are not going well, struggling for 7 years, it's not going well. For 15 years, they are forcing, again, the metaphorical symbolic shoe, they are forcing this romantic notion of a soulmate onto their relationship, and they almost like every day they have this crowbar and they're trying so hard to make the reality of what's happening fit into the narrative of this fantasy romantic savior soulmate, and so that they can prove to themselves that they have found the one. Oh, please, second time I'm saying it, please be careful with this kind of thinking. And again, you can believe it lightly if it's part of your philosophy. If this philosophical idea of a soulmate has some validity to you, then good for you, then believe it, then, read books about it. There's so much, there's wonderful poetry about, exploring this idea of this very transcendent love. And the transcendent means it goes beyond, it transcends. And it goes beyond the mundane, it goes beyond the ordinary, it goes beyond the earthly. And we're talking about a very heightened spiritual love and operating in a very higher level of consciousness. And so there's an assumption that the soulmate relationship is deeper, it's more, it's better, it has, it comes with a profound truth not offered to everyone. So there's also a bit of narcissism in this idea, if you're really paying attention, to be chosen, to have your very unique special partner where you both experience this heightened, transcendent, highly evolved spiritual love that is not given to just anybody. It's only it's only given to you if you are blessed and if you are chosen, and both of you are able to find each other and find the perfect magic slipper that fits the foot so lovely, and you are going to bliss out on your profound, meaningful, transcendent relationship. There is a narcissistic component to fueling this belief of how special you are and how special the partner is and how special your relationship is. And that if we're looking at it from the point of view of narcissism, that's feeding this idea that you need to be special. And most probably you do, because your history of being wounded and hurt in relationship in your family is that you very clearly got the information and had experiences that you're not special, that you are not valued, that your worth is not being mirrored back to you, that the little girl or the little boy's preciousness was not valued, the essence of who you are being good enough. You're good enough just as you are. You don't have to perform, you don't have to be fake, you don't have to be anything that you're not. However, if you grew up in that environment where your specialness was denied, it makes sense that the storyline or the narrative of finding a love that is special would be very attractive to you. So that if that part of you is wounded historically, where you were not valued and you were actually told that you're not really that interesting, you must not be interesting, which is why your family doesn't love you. I mean, how does a child comprehend this? How does a child make sense of, why isn't my family engaging me on a more heightened, emotionally connected way? Over time, whether you're conscious of it or not, you just have to conclude, well, I guess I'm not that interesting. I guess I'm not that worthy. I guess they just don't want to know me. They don't want to love me. And for some of us, that crosses over into, well, there must be something wrong with me. So if you have this history, we love opposites. Our mind loves opposites, and we love, in order for healing and for corrective experience, we love opposites, and we love to seek out the thing that we never had. So if we came from a home where we're repeatedly given messages that we must not be very special, if we're going to be consistently ignored or neglected on a regular basis, it makes sense. Usually two things happen, and they're the same thing, but they're just the polarity of the two things. One is that we become very apathetic and we don't care about relationships, and we might more show up in a kind of depressive state, a kind of, shrug your shoulders, I don't really give a shit, like, well, whatever. We'll become cynical and we'll become jaded. And then the other side of that is the overcompensation and the belief in some profound specialness, which again is the romantic narrative, and this idea that when we do finally find this amazing, loving partner, not only are we partners as part, sharing relationship in our humanness, we're going to transcend our humanness, and we are going to access a very heightened spiritual love. Well, that affirms our specialness, but oftentimes it's reinforcing the original wound where we're under what's still unaddressed is how we were very much wounded and hurt. So here's the alternative. This is what I'm sharing, and I've already hinted at it in the beginning of this video, is if you understand this, if you're on board with protecting yourself from getting too confused and activating your own propensity or the likelihood that you will distort reality, one very practical tool that you can use is to be ordinary. Now, I am aware that what I am saying is not sexy. You are not going to go to a Hallmark card and there's not going to be a section that says ordinary love. And I think there's a song by Sade that says this is no ordinary love. Well, we don't want the Sade song. We want a different version that just says this is an ordinary love. We don't want transcendent, amazing, heightened, deepening into different levels of consciousness. Another way that people use this idea is saying that soulmates help each other heal. And when we have found our very special person who shows up as a kind of savior, we are now going to mirror our wounds, and we use very heightened language. There's even this term, to be honest with you, I have no idea what it means outside of the poetic nature of it, but this idea of a twin flame, now we're looking for a twin flame, which sounds like a really good name for a band, the Twin Flames. If you believe this, you're going to distort reality, and one way to counter it is to really focus on the ordinary. And again, that's not sexy, that's not attractive. You're not going to see a romantic comedy starring Jennifer Aniston where you get to see them interacting in an ordinary way. The whole point of the romantic narrative in a Hollywood romantic comedy, the arc of the story is about being denied your partner. They'll meet the very special, important person, and then they have some obstacle, how they can't get along, or there's some drama around how they're kept apart. And then the tragedy enters. There's this tragedy of, the wounded lovers who are not able to make it. And then it all culminates with complete clarity and a clearing of understanding so that they can arrive at this magnificent union of joining each other in profound bliss and complete surrender of love. And if you've been hearing my voice, I'm stumbling on my words because at this point in my history, in my life, and the nature of my work, I just don't believe this crap anymore. And again, respectfully, I say this so respectfully, I'm not arguing if it does or doesn't exist. How the hell do I know? I don't know. But I am letting you know, I'm giving you a heads up. If your mind works like this, and if you're letting these types of ideas run wild, it's very possible that it's going to trigger reality distortion. And if you have a history of very easily and very quickly entering reality distortion from a therapeutic point of view, from a healing point of view, heads up, that is not helpful to you. You need to be aware of this. You need to monitor and keep this kind of thinking in check. Otherwise, you can find yourself stuck in very unhealthy relationships that are not working, great amount of suffering, great amount of pain, and you're constantly convincing yourself that you must stay with this person, you must make it work because God said so, or because you have this belief in a soulmate. And who could leave a soulmate then? If this person has some kind of divine stamp of approval, who the heck would want to end that and say goodbye to that relationship? Because not only are you letting yourself down, you're letting the heavens down. You're letting down this divine, this masterful plan of some, divine design. And wow, you're really screwed up if you can't make the soulmate relationship work because you've been given this amazing gift, and obviously you are lacking such great skill to keep this gift going or to benefit from this gift. Now, the language I'm using, until you wake up or educate yourself to really looking more at using language of attachment theory and attachment injuries and attachment trauma, and pulling out of love language and instead looking at vulnerability, looking at emotional openness, looking at emotional attunement. The very technical term from a neurophysiological perspective is called limbic resonance. The brain matches up, different parts of the limbic brain match up, and now you'll have limbic resonance. So if you are used to using the language of love, that's usually what people mean when they start saying, is this true? Is this real? I have, in my opinion, or after observing many people, after talking to people, that when people say, well, is it real or is it not real? Is this love real? Is this love authentic? Is my partner genuine? Do we have a true love? When people enter that language, chances are, if we decode it, if we change the language and we drop into what's actually being asked here, there's the question. There's some sanity in the question. The goodness and the sanity of the question is, am I distorting reality? Am I being honest with myself? Am I lying to myself? And so many of us can't be that direct with ourselves. We're not going to pick up the mirror and look in the mirror. We're not going to take the flashlight or the microscope and shine it on ourselves. That is a bit scary, and we're not quite prepared to be that raw and direct with our own choices and how we're showing up and how we have picked an emotionally unavailable partner to be with anyway. However, we try to take one step towards that direction. We try to court that information by saying, is this love real? Is this love true? Is this genuine relating? What I am proposing, what I offer, is that you experiment and maybe stop using that language for a bit, and even experiment for a while if you can, if you're okay with this idea. Can you soften or turn down this whole idea of a soulmate? And again, I don't even know what twin flame is, but I feel like it fits here. So even if you believe in this, spiritualized version of transcendent love as a burning brightly as your twin flame, I'm inviting you, can you tone that down a bit and look at very concrete interactions, as if you are a scientist, as if you are a detective, as if you are an observer, and you're just observing the interactions with your partner, and say, is there vulnerability here? Are we sharing vulnerability? Is there a sense of give and take? Does it flow? Is there a reasonable frequency of vulnerability being offered? How am I noticing in the body language that vulnerability exists? How do I notice vulnerability is being offered through touch and through facial expression and through communication and through words and even through presence, the ability to stay present, the ability to listen, the ability to, it's the opposite of someone who's on their phone all the time. So if you're with a partner who is constantly on his or her phone, with a partner that when you speak to them, they're not even looking at you. If you're with a partner that when you're speaking and you ask a question, there's a delayed response, as if like the person's not even online, like they're not even hooked into the conversation, and then they come into it like, what do you mean? What do you want? What did you say? Those are good examples. So we don't have to take those moments and say, well, is that true or authentic or real? We can use this other language and say, well, that's a moment of disrupted interaction. That's a moment where there's a lag time of emotional availability. That's a moment where two people are ignoring each other, or potentially one partner is ignoring the other partner. And we want to begin to be honest about that kind of interaction, and that will give you the information that you need back to say, is this a healthy relationship or is this an unhealthy relationship? Are we experiencing an exchange of secure relating, secure attachment, or are we reinforcing and experiencing a kind of insecure attachment? That language might be a little more helpful than using this language of love and using this language of trying to go on a witch hunt, that kind of really scrutinizing. Is it real or is it not real? Is it true or not true? Is it authentic or is it fake? Try the other language. Try to have a boundary to not believe in this soulmate idea, the savior relationship as a savior idea, relationship as someone who's going to show up on a soul level to help you do the necessary spiritual healing work that you need to do to evolve to your next level of healing, or your next level of maturing. That whole kind of thinking can confuse us. And my interest, the whole purpose of this video and how I work with clients around healing attachment injuries, is we have to really hone in on, when are you distorting reality? You might not have the luxury to believe in this lovely idea of soulmate. Some people can believe it because they don't have a history of dysfunctional relating the way you do. And for those people, good for them. How wonderful that they believe that, and they might even be in a relationship with their soulmate, and that's how they communicate it, and they write blogs about it, and it's just the most wonderful thing. Good for them. I will speak for myself, because I am someone who has a history also, or I identify as having an attachment injury, and I know for myself, I just can't believe that. It will not help me stay sane. It will not help me stay grounded in healthy relating. It will trigger and activate distorted thinking to the point where I will lose touch with reality, and that's going to activate and trigger a history of how I was living in distorted reality from my history in my family. So perhaps that is true of you too. So I am inviting you to say, please have some caution around this idea and take care of yourself. You're actually, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not aware that you have a choice here to have a boundary around this kind of thinking. So I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more just like it, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can also join a Facebook group, which is The New Love Addiction on Facebook. It is a group of lovely people who explore ideas just like this one on this video, as well as a number of others related to attachment injuries, attachment trauma, and what is healthier relationships and healthy relating. And finally, of course, if you want to learn more about me, please go to alanrobarge.com, and you can learn more about my services and what I have to offer. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.